if I understand, the Soviet Union at the time simply had no funds to pay people. And the Soviet Union simply told people, look, guys, just do the job, but we'll consider you heroes. But 5 years later, Soviet Union disintegrated and Ukraine inherited all these commitments and obligations. So my question is, what, when you were a young cleanup worker, were you told that you're a hero? And if something goes wrong with your health, we will look after you for the rest of your life? Yes, indeed. Legislation was passed, a special ministry was created that was dealing with cleanup operations and looking after the cleanup workers. And the law is still in force. However, it's not being enforced. Most importantly, there is no state program to mitigate the consequences of the accident. We still don't know what happens and what is being done. There is no plan, there is no program, there is no government agency that deals with it. And in fact, in the parliament of Ukraine, there has always been a special committee that deals with it, but it's no longer there. There's a committee under social policy, but there's nothing, they don't do anything about Chernobyl. And the Minister of Social Policy deals less and less with after effects of Chernobyl. All this time, it's been 35 years now since NPP. All our rights and pensions and benefits we have to fight for in court. This is as much as heroes is concerned. The state only remembers about us once a year on the 26th of April. All these years we've been trying to fight for our rights, especially this concerns financial support. So this is the answer. We also organize rallies, and so we are not young anymore, and we're not exactly in the best of health. And to get together, it's hard these days. And under ombudsmen, there are some people who deal with Chernobyl issues, and we get together via Zoom. More or less, this is a tool that helps us to make some decisions. But they make a report for an hour and then they leave 10 minutes for our discussions. But we need to change the attitude to this, not because we need it only, but because this paints the picture of the state, of the government. It really is telling how the government treats these people. And some aspects are neglected. See, if, just to give you an example, in the past, they used to say that a cleanup worker is a problem for the state. But if there are no cleanup workers, there are no problems. It's easier to lay the flowers to the memorial, or perhaps you should pay a bit more attention to them while they're still alive. Because if that's how we're treated, the war will be over and we'll enjoy peace. But the guys who are protecting us, they will have the same treatment, I'm sure. The topic of Chernobyl is a multifaceted problem, and the after effects of Chernobyl is similar to COVID-19 because it's something that happened in China, then it was leaked to the rest of the world. So if we can't solve the problem of Chernobyl consequences, there is an understanding and a feeling that this might be repeated again. But we need to learn our lessons and understand what can be improved. I have quite a few questions, and then we will talk about payment of benefits. Speaking of COVID-19, the cleanup workers and people who suffered, they are in the risk group. How do they communicate with social security authorities? Because to have your rights protected, you need to go out, you need to meet people, communicate, and so on. So how do you live and how do you solve these problems under COVID-19 conditions? Let me tell you this. When vaccination started, I phoned the center and I told them, are there any benefits or privileges for the disabled? If you can move, no. But if you have the first group of disability, then we'll come over and give you the vaccination. As far as all the other groups, there are no benefits. I also thought perhaps there are some benefits. And through our Afghan group, we approached the medical staff, and in an organized fashion, they gave us the vaccine and went through vaccination. Now, Valeriy will tell you more. Well, you see, just like the whole Chernobyl, COVID-19 is multifaceted problem. So during the pandemic, half of cleanup workers it is recommended not to get vaccinated. Otherwise, they don't recommend because oncology diabetes, and if you add this vaccination, it may lead to people dying. So there are some various aspects that are dubious, and we don't know whether the consequences of vaccination will be positive. As far as privilege is concerned, no privileges, no one even cares about this on a daily basis. We're trying to get free medicine. We get prescription, but no one pays for them. It's for 4 months now. Or if they become available, it's just for 1 or 2 days. And so it's just too short of a window of opportunity. So this is a new aspect. So, you see, if pensions were decent, then cleanup workers wouldn't try to get a free prescription, both for treatment and rehabilitation, and not just rehabilitation in this country, but perhaps even abroad. In Germany, in the UK, they were ready to give us assistance. Funds become available just for a day or two. Have you heard of Alkastos Semenos? He's also a pilot. Me-8. He was piloting Me-8. Then he returned to Leningrad military district. He's Lithuanian. His pension is 1,500 euros. When communicating to state bodies and social security service, does COVID make things more difficult? Are offices still open and you can go and see social workers when you need to? It's more a question that we need to ask Ukrainian organizations. But in Solominsky district in Kiev, we don't observe this. No, not separately, just like everyone else. Okay, then, speaking of payments, can you tell me what privileges the cleanup workers are entitled to? But you see, not everyone knows exactly what people are entitled to. I can tell you that in addition to pension, we get 456 hryvnia. So it's around 15 hryvnia or 12 pounds. I was once interviewed by a German journalist. She said, but this is just to have coffee. So indeed, if you think free transportation, yes, it's privilege. Or if you can travel also once a year in Ukraine, many people might think there are many, but in fact, I don't see them. The main important privilege is a decent pension, as it is paid in the EU, the Baltic states, like they get 1,500 euros pension. I think that's a decent pension that would enable us to feel protected financially. And it means you can spend money on rehabilitation, on maintaining your health. They say money doesn't buy you happiness, but without the money, it's hard. As far as payment for communal services, they said, well, let's see, we will pay you using funds to cover your bills, your communal bills. I know that for oligarchs this would be quite suitable, but with galloping inflation, this is not permissible. So for us, it's best to leave it the way it is written in the law. We get privileges for electricity, for housing, medical privileges. The only thing we have is we can get a prescription for medicines that don't really work. Which is effectively a small discount. Foreign cleanup workers from Azerbaijan, for instance, or Kyrgyzstan, they come to Truskovets, for instance, and in the past they were charged an upper rate, but now they pay the same as we pay, but their pension is double our pension, and they're quite happy. So what should you get? Higher pension? No, that not everyone gets. But recently, Law 455 was passed. I spoke to Sasha Sirota. His mother was evacuated from Pripyat, and his minimum pension was 2,400 hryvnia. And in the summer, we wanted to speak about her. So now, starting from September, they reassessed her pension, and now they are paying her more. And the medicine that is supposed to be paid free of charge, what else?
The National State Center of Radiation Medicine, that was the principal entity for all Europe, principal hub for diagnostics, examination, and research in biological and medical aspects. So one Chernobyl liquidated per day, it's 13 hryvnias for meals, 18 hryvnias for the drugs, medical drugs, that is. So how can we utilize that? Can you buy a pill for that kind of price, of that kind of money? Well, that's what we have. That's what we've got. So they also have to compensate 70% of all the surgeries, right? That's what I was told. We used to have the foundation at the same center I was referring to for the surgeries. And that was some kind of compensation, partial at least. Now it is impossible to get from our Center of Social Protection to get any kind of permit, and not to mention the compensation. In real terms, they cannot get that, especially considering that it's distant work now. The correspondence takes years. There are some diseases that take a month to kill a person. These are your privileges. These are privileges for you. But I would like to that when we had that state program, it was all broken down into items and sub-items, and would be executed budget-wise. This is the attitude problem. That was very characteristic. We have no free medical care. How can it be free? How can it possibly be a surgery? You have to put your name on the waiting list, and you can be dead by the time you get your chance. So it's all financial, always. I am assigned as a military officer to the hospital. Once a year we are to be examined. It's mandatory with us, the examination, with the test and all that. But we have the pharmacy at the hospital providing 100 to 200 hryvnias worth of medical drugs. If it is more expensive, you have to buy it from your own pocket. So there is no such thing as free medical care. It's all a cost, and always so. I have another question. Liquidators have the right to get flat accommodation and a plot of land. Was it actually implemented in the Soviet time? There is such right, it's in the law. But there are lots of things also written on the walls, the graffiti. But do you know of any case when pilots or helicopter crew members would get any kind of flats? I went as Vice President when I was still in active military service, and it was so humiliated. It was much easier to fight the disaster than to fight the red tapes, they say. I remember one of the anniversaries. I was still in active service back then. And we are in Darnice, there is this the church and the monument, and we would lay flowers on the Kuchma, Mr. Kuchma's president. And he was taking his rounds, just saying hello to everyone there. And I approached him and said, I'm Major, sorry, I had 11 flights to the reactor and then Afghanistan, and I'm still without any accommodation, and I could see no clearing, I said. Then he responded on the spot. Some people from the mayor's office came to approach me. I was put on the waiting list, and they said, Major, you have your flats. But it wasn't that optimistic. As it turned out, I got a letter. Nobody would invite me to any office. I just received the letter from the mayor's office that they were aware of the military officer who was on the waiting list. So I just had to wait for my turn. I went to the presidential administration. They said in the reception room that I had to go to the mayor's office again. I came back to the mayor's office, and I will remember this for the rest of my life. I entered that office, and there was a special office, civil office, civil 7. He was looking me straight in the eye and asked, why have you come here? It's your generals who should provide you. And he said this to my face. I was shocked. I was in my uniform. I was so shocked. And then He took his time to read about my background. He got a bit softer. He said, "You have to call Mr. Pshenichny." Do you remember this name? I called Mr. Pshenichny using the intercom from the office directly, and he actually yelled at me, and he said, "What do you want? What do you want from me? You got your answer. You are on the waiting list. Just wait. If you don't like the waiting list, you can sue us." And he hung up, hung up on me. And that's about this helicopter destiny. We wouldn't say, we wouldn't admit that that was the attitude. So here's the situation. It all depends on the local authorities and how they have to face the situation. There are thousands of people in Kiev waiting for their flights. The liquidators, among them, there are many Kievans who were born and bred in Kiev. So they are on the waiting list for 30 years now. But all our councillors get their flats immediately when they take the oath and get sworn into their office. And they never give up the flats because they privatize them. And the people with the privileges have no other place to go to. So I remember the 35th anniversary, the 26th of April in Lviv, Mayor Sadovy provided 16 flats additionally. 16 he provided, but the local community is very active. They have pilots of Chernobyl, and it is led by one well-known liquidator. So, and in the field and also in the capital, this should be all corrected, the Chernobyl aspects. The 20th time, I'm telling you that this is going to be realistic only when and if we have the state program for this liquidation. And let me just say about liquidators who are disabled now because of their service in the area. I'm talking about the military on their behalf. But regardless, civilian or military, the diseases they suffer from can be explained only by their duty inside. It's about 40,000 people in Ukraine. Still around for 40 million. Is it much? I'm asking you. 2 years ago, they gave us a new ID. We used to have participants of liquidation. Then when Ukraine regained its independence, we had different ideas. So was related to registration. 2 years ago, we got our status of liquidators back, not victims of self-arrest. We were divided into categories. There are victims, there are liquidators, and a different color of the IDs. And we would think that we could expect some state decisions on the finance at least, but it's been 2 years after that placement of IDs, but we can see no developments whatsoever. And I'm telling you again, is it difficult for this category of people to have some pension, something good, something of value? It's 45, 55. It shouldn't be a flat sum because it says in the law that it should be 6, 8, 10 minimal pensions, depending on the category of disability. And now we have a flat amount, you see, and you should understand the pensions change. They get index, but not the flat sums. And some people just gave up. And if you breach this law once and get away with it, it's like a football that you can kick as much as you can. It's 18,540 hryvnias since starting from December, they will make it 19,000 something. But the limits should be removed. This is the issue, and this should be resolved in court. Unfortunately, takes a court proceeding. First of all, you have to fight this pension. A court proceeding number one, and then to remove the limitation. Again, another lawsuit.